In this lesson, we will talk about objects and arrays. Objects is a mechanism where you can combine several pieces of data together into a single reusable component and then use this component later in your code. And object and array have slightly different syntax. Object work with the structured data, and array is more like a list of the values in the single building block. So in this lesson, I will show you how to create objects, how to create arrays, how to add values into the objects, and how to read the values from the objects and arrays. Object is an entity that can hold multiple values at the same time. Remember when we talked about variables in the lesson 1, I mentioned that variable not necessarily can hold only just one value. It can hold multiple values. And to hold the multiple values, we need a construction called object. So how the object is defined? Let me create a new one. So let me create a new variable, and I will call this variable a customer. And I want this variable to hold information about first and last name of our customer. How to do that? Object is defined by curly braces, and then the information hold inside of the object in the key and value pair. So I provide a key, which is first name, and provide the value. Let's say John. Then values are separated by comma, and I provide the second value, which is last name, which is our key, and the value for this key will be Smith. This is our simple object customer with first name John and last name Smith. So all this information is saved inside of this variable customer. Now, how to get access to this information? So very easy. If we go to the console log and simply print our customer object to the console, let's see what happens. I run lesson 3. And we see that entire object is printed, right? First name John, last name Smith. If I want to print just the first name, all I do is just customer dot first name and run this again. And I see it's printed John. Or I can do customer dot and look what I have. So the Visual Studio Code tells me which values are available inside of my objects. So when I put dot after the customer, it shows me, hey, we have a first name and last name available property. Which one do we want to choose? I want to choose last name. I choose the last name and run it one more time, and we have a Smith. That's the approach number 1. The second option, how we can access our values inside of the object using the square bracket notation. In this example, we need to provide the value as a string in the single quotes inside of the brackets that we want to get. Here we go, and the Smith is printed one more time into the console. So what if we want to change any values inside of our object? That's very easy to do. We just call our customer, then dot, let's say first name, and we assign a new value. Let's say we want to replace John with Mike. And I remind you, we can use either single quotes or double quotes over here. And let me make a comment here that this called as dot notation. And let's say we want to change the last name as well. So we can take our bracket notation. Let me copy this. So you can use either or. Both approach will work just fine. And we change the last name to Silver. And I make a note that this call as bracket notation, just for my notes. Now let's print both of those values into the console using interpolation. So I put the backticks, then $, curly braces, customer dot first name, space, and then another $, customer, $, brackets, customer dot last name, and I run this code, and we see, here we go, the Mike Silver is printed to the console. All right, so this was about the object. Now let's talk about the arrays. What is array? Array is another type of the entity, which is a list of items that you want to save. And they are just placed inside of the array as an order. So let me create a new variable and let me call it cars. And let's say our John Smith, or right now Mike Silver, has different cars. And those cars are, let's say, Volvo, we call Toyota. And since this is a strings, we need to put them in the quotes. And let's put the third vehicle and we call it Tesla, for example. We have 3 cars, but we don't have the exact definition of what exactly this car is. For example, with the object we have, okay, the John is first name, is not the last name, and Smith is belong to the last name. In this example, we are just putting the list. Hey, we have just a list of 3 items, and this particular variable car gonna keep for us those 3 items in the particular order, 1, 2, and 3. Also, array has an index. An index in the array always start with 0. So Volvo will have index 0, Toyota index 1, and Tesla will have index 2. So knowing that, how to get the values out of the array? Very simple. So let me put console.log. And let's say we want to get the first car from our list. So we put square braces and put the index of the item that we want to get from the array. If I will run it and print it, and here we go, we have printed a Volvo. If I will change this to index 1, the value Toyota will be printed to the console. And the same way we can override the values inside of our array. Let's say we want to replace the second car with index 1. We want to replace it with BMW, right? And in this case now, when we run the same exact code, console will print BMW instead of Toyota, because we replaced the value under index 1 inside of our array with a new value, which is BMW. And one more thing, our objects also may have an arrays. For example, we may add into the list of the customer the list of cars, right? Because our customer may have a cars, and if we put the list of cars inside of this object, all this information will be there. Our customer John Smith has 3 cars. And the same thing, how to get access for the, let's say, first car of the John Smith. So we put console log, then we call our customer object dot cars, and we provide the index of the item that we want to get. And I run this code, and we see that Volvo is printed into the console. Alright, so that's it, and this is the difference between objects and arrays. One more time. Object is defined by curly braces, and the information inside of the object is saved in the format of key and value pairs. And key and value pair is separated by colon, and each key value pair is separated by comma. Arrays are defined by square braces, and you keep just values inside of the arrays. Array has exact order of the items placed inside of the array, and this order has an index. First element has index 0, second element has index 1, third element has index 2, and so on. Also, array can be part of the object and can be defined as a value for a key. In this way, you can build a very complex object and data structures to keep different types of information inside of your object. In order to read or modify data inside of the object, you can use bracket notation or dot notation. Alright, that's it guys, and see you in the next lesson.